Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to Jay's Retro Toys and Games for Friday, May 13th, 2022. It's episode 18, and I'm your host, Jason DeCanio, for another look at some great retro toys and games. And tonight we have two for the price of one. Two games that require the Pop-O-Matic bubble. That's right. If you recall what I just said, you know which games I'm talking about. Trouble and the Game of Headache. We'll be looking at both of them tonight on episode 18 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Okay, welcome to the show, and hope you're having a great Friday the 13th. Hopefully it's been a very lucky day for you and not so unlucky for everybody else, but you know, that's how it goes. We're looking at two games for the price of one, even though usually I would have split these up into two separate episodes, but tonight we're looking at two games for the price of one that require the Pop-O-Matic bubble. And as you know, one of them is the classic Trouble, and the other one is more of a UK version, but played here in the States, not so popular, but it still has the same kind of Pop-O-Matic bubble, and it's called the Game of Headache. Trouble, of course, is the more US popular version that most people can recognize and most people played because it was amazingly available. And if you could find the Game of Headache, which I had both versions, it was luck of the draw for that. It was getting very hard for some people to want to play the Game of Headache because it's time-consuming. I don't think so, but you never know. All right, let's look at Trouble, the first game here, or known as Frustration in the UK and Kimble in Finland. It's a board game in which players compete to be the first to send 4 pieces all the way around the board. Pieces are moved according to the roll of a die using a contained device called a Pop-O-Matic. Trouble was developed by the Kohner brothers and initially manufactured by Irwin Toy Ltd., later by Milton Bradley, now part of Hasbro. The game was launched in America in 1965. The classic version is now marketed by Winning Moves Games USA. The gameplay, board, and concept is derivative of the Indian board game Ludo. A similar game called Headache, which we'll look at a little bit later in the program, was also produced by the Milton Bradley Company. Besides a different track layout, its pawns are conical, in contrast to the cylindrical pieces used in Trouble. The gameplay, players can send opponents' pieces back to the start by landing on them. Teaming is not allowed in the game. Pieces are protected from capture after arriving in the final 4 slots. Unlike more complex race games, such as Parcheesi, counters cannot be maneuvered to block opponents' moves. The most notable feature of Trouble is the Pop-O-Matic die container. This device is a clear plastic hemisphere containing the die placed over a flexible sheet. Players roll the die by pressing down quickly on the bubble, which flexes the sheet and causes the die to tumble upon its rebound. The Pop-O-Matic container produces a popping sound when it is used and prevents the die from being lost and players from cheating by improper rolling. It allows for quick die rolls, and players' turns can be performed in rapid succession. The die is imprinted with Arabic numerals rather than the traditional circular pips, though the circular pips are used in the travel version, which contains a cover to keep the pegs from being lost. Players may move pieces out of their start only when the die lands on a 6. Getting a 6 at any point in the game also allows the players to take another turn, even if the player cannot move any of their pieces, as they cannot land on any of their own pieces. They can also move a new piece out even if they have another piece currently in play, and can also do the same if another player's piece is occupying their start space, but cannot do so when one of their own pieces is occupying their start space, so you can't block yourself in. If the die in the Pop-O-Matic container has not clearly landed on a number, then the player who popped it can tap the Pop-O-Matic but may not repop while the die is in limbo. Double Trouble, 1987, was originally published by Milton Bradley. It is currently being produced in the USA by Winning Moves Games. Each player moves 2 pieces along a path using separate Pop-O-Matic dice or dice roller devices. And then there's references and links. And that is a look at Trouble. Now we swap over to Headache, which is a similar board game, but has some differences. It's a board game for which the object is to land a playing piece known as cones or men on top of all opponent's pieces to create stacks. Player moves in circles until one player has captured every other player's cones on the board and declared the winner. All players are welcome to occupy any space throughout the game, provided the die rolls allow, and there are 8 spaces that serve as safe spots where a cone resting on the space cannot be captured. Captured pieces are not sent back to start, but are permanently lost. Like similar games such as Trouble, Headache has its dice in a Pop-O-Matic bubble in the center of the board. The bubble is pressed to roll the dice. Unlike Trouble, which has a single die in the bubble, Headache has 2 dice. One die is a regular die featuring the numbers 1 through 6. The other is blank on 5 sides and has a red dot on the 6th side. The red dot, if rolled, allows for an extra turn. Headache was first introduced in 1968 by the Kohner brothers and was later manufactured by Milton Bradley. In the UK, the game called Game of Headache was released in 1968 through Peter Pan Playings. Headache uses a round board in which movement is around the outside of the board, and the bubble with the dice is in the center. There is a starting point for each of the 4 colors. The board has a total of 48 spaces, including 8 safe spots, each marked with an X. 4 of these 8 safe spots are starting points. The spaces protrude from the surface of the board, thereby allowing the cones to rest on them neatly. The board has 2 tracks, the outer and the inner. The outer track has 3 spaces between X's, and the inner track has 2. Both tracks merge at each X. The difference allows players to strategically move around the board, and any player who has their cone on a safe spot X cannot be captured, and an opponent is not permitted to land a cone on such a spot occupied by 1. A player is allowed to keep his or her cone on an X as long as he or she wishes, provided there is another legal move. The exception is on the first 4 rounds of turns, in which each player must move a different cone, clearing the starting space. The playing pieces in the game are known as cones, or men in the UK, because of their cone shape. This allows them to be stacked on top of one another in unlimited numbers. Each player starts off with 4 cones, and whenever one player lands on the space occupied by the cone of another, this player captures the opponent's cone. The capturing player places their cone on top of the cone of the player being captured, where it remains throughout the game. The result is known as a stack. Stacks have the special privilege to move around the board in either direction, whereas single cones may only move clockwise. And there you have it, folks. A short but brief look at 2 Pop-O-Matic bubble games, Trouble and Headache. Really good stuff. And we're grateful for their longevity play, 57 years straight going since 1965. Wonderful. Well, that's going to be it for tonight, and we thank you very much for joining us here. Now, coming up on Monday's edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games, episode 19, we're going to look at a game that came out in 1983 and has really taken off as one of the best games ever in its time. It was also made into an interactive game show, as well as had so many versions of questions and other things, and it's also on an online game and a video game as well. So there's many versions of it too. We'll be looking at the Canadian board game actually, of general knowledge and pop culture questions. We'll be looking at Trivial Pursuit next time on Jay's Retro Toys and Games, episode 19. I'm Jason Canio, hoping that you have a fantastic weekend. Remember, if you're part of our group page, and I wanted to make this really clear, if you're part of our group page on Facebook and you're listening to the program through Anchor and Spotify, wonderful. Thank you very much. But do go over to our YouTube page and listen to the episodes over there. Get the numbers up. Get the watch time hours up as well, folks. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page, please do, if you have a YouTube page. And even if you don't, whatever the case, you could still go to YouTube without signing in and listen to the program, because we send those links out, and those links will take you right directly to the YouTube page. We hope you have a great time here and continue to enjoy our show. Remember, coming up in the next, I want to say June 1st, we'll be having 1 hour discussions of the back episodes of our toys and games over the course. And what we're going to be doing is talking to people on StreamYard that want to come in and talk about their memories of these games, what impact it had in their life with their families, and get a retrospect of how certain games have brought families together, or you've learned a lot of over this by playing these games. And each one has a great story, and we would love to get you on here on the StreamYard. It's going to be a live interactive show. What I'm trying to do is make it so we don't get any people who are not going to stay on topic to the show. By that I mean, if you're a troll, I don't want you in. I'm sorry, because if you're not going to give us a retrospect of your time playing the game and stick to the topic on that episode, you're going to be kicked out, or and if you're not serious about this, then we don't want you in. I'm sorry, because this is a show that is looking at the history of old toys and games that have been around since the dawn of time, and we want to keep it that way. And we will keep it that way. And I'm going to have to be the moderator and have to probably get certain people in there to be moderators. When we get to that point, I will, of course, let you know when it's going to happen. And I'm only going to go live on YouTube at the time, and also put it just in the Facebook group so you know when to come in. All right, and if you'd like the link to come in to join me on the StreamYard live session, you're more than welcome to. But you must follow the rules of that StreamYard, and realize that if you come in, we want you to stay on topic. We can have a little fun, we can talk about it, but as soon as you go off topic, you're out. And we don't. And I'm not putting up with that. Okay, this is a serious show, and we take it very seriously here. All right. Thank you very much for your continued support, folks. Have a great weekend. We'll talk more about this as we get closer to June, and we'll definitely I'll be definitely making some probably even going live on a Facebook live discussions with my group page members, so they know what to expect. All right, from all of us here at Jay's Retro Toys and Games, I'm Jason DeCanio. Remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Have a great night. We will see you Monday. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Advertising Network for great more content like this one.